Maserati, maker of some of the most beautiful cars of the 1960s, and for me, the 1970s. Once they got into the 80s, they got into some mergers, acquisitions, some real financial troubles, and some quality control issues. With cars like the bi-turbo and quadruport, they had some issues. I actually really liked both cars, but they had a real return to form with the Giugiaro-designed 3200 GT in 1998. A gorgeous car, a car that sadly we didn't get here in the States. We did, however, get the 4200, which was released in 2002, and it was a pretty cool car. It wasn't a car that immediately necessarily caught my eye, but it was a pretty car. It had elements of Aston Martin, elements of Ferrari, and again, I'm a fan of most things Giugiaro has done over the years, so it had my attention. In 2005, when they came out with the GranSport, I was sold. Driving the car was amazing. At the time, it almost seemed like a hero-level differential. And still, you know, now that I've got this car, I will say I think one of the key things this car versus the earlier ones is little tweaks, little setups to the skyhook, to suspension, to the diff. Even the engine, not a huge bump in horsepower. At the same time, it's a balanced and blueprinted unit by Ferrari, and made a huge difference. And honestly, I love this car, and I'd love to take you for a ride in it. And I think the value is crazy right now on the used market, so it'd be one definitely to check out. If you're a collector, I mean, it's definitely probably even going to depreciate a little bit more, but they are more limited edition. It is a car that, you know, really when they replaced it with the Gran Turismo, is not one that has the spark that this car has. The Gran Turismo has beautiful lines, but it just has a little bit more of a mass-produced and a little bit less of a sports car feel that I think imbues this particular GT car with something a little bit special. So let's take it for a ride, and there's so many great things, highlights about this car. This one's actually fitted with the Fab Speed secondary cat deletes, and so it only has primary cats, but it really allows the factory exhaust, which was special for this particular car, the GranSport, to really speak a beautiful tune.
So a lot of you asked me, what's it like to own this car, or should I even buy one of these? I've been considering a couple cars in this price range, and should I consider a GranSport? Can I trust an Italian car? And I'm here to tell you absolutely yes, you can trust this car. In fact, I found the GranSport from actually searching for a Ferrari 348, which I never did end up finding the perfect 348. But what I did find is a community of Ferrari enthusiasts that almost exclusively own these as daily drivers, and they love them because they're so reliable. Now really, I haven't modified it much, other than the Fab Speed secondary cat deletes, because I wanted that little extra crackle on the top end. This car wants to sing an aria, so let it. Now, I recently took this car on a pretty long drive, about 1,000 miles, and it ended up getting about 23 miles per gallon. That's above the EPA rating for the car, and honestly, I couldn't complain because it is a great car on the highway. Now, when I was searching for my car, I was kind of like back and forth. Did I want the cloth inserts? You know, I had read where the cars with the cloth inserts actually weighed about 60 pounds less than the cars with full leather. In the end, it was about price point for me. This car had all the options like heated seats and everything else that I wanted. If I had to do it all over again, I'd probably go for the full leather interior, primarily because the roof on the full leather cars is a thing of beauty. Now, you're going to want to check the dampers on the skyhook suspension. That's important. And you're also going to want to check out the double wishbone suspension because the bushings can wear. You'll read a lot about this era Ferrari and Maserati having sticky parts. This vent, for example, is sticky. Now, I've already taken the sticky off this center vent, and it was pretty straightforward. There's a lot of tutorials online, and every Ferrari and Maserati from this era has that issue. Now, other than the sticky, which is easily averted, every piece of the interior of this car is an absolute tactile pleasure. The carbon fiber is of the highest quality. Really, the only thing I changed on the interior was to upgrade to this Alpine head unit that has Bluetooth connectivity. Now, the car is an absolute pleasure to drive because the sport button actually does sport things. It actually changes the way the transmission shifts, and when it's depressed, it opens up a valve in the exhaust and softens up the dampers when the sport button's off. Now, service history, owner's manual, keys, you've got to get them with the car. If you don't have it, you're not going to get it after the fact. And I really love this booklet that explains to valets how to drive your car. There's like 100 rip-out pages. Now, the Ferrari F136 under the hood is the reason you buy this car. It is an absolutely glorious power plant and really reliable. It's a dry sump unit and balanced and blueprinted at the factory, hand-assembled by Ferrari engineers. Come on! Now, you're going to want to know that the clutch was done or what the clutch wear is on the car, and honestly, I would check out the heater core. And even if you need to do a clutch and a heater core, you'll still own a low-production, hand-assembled Italian car at the end of the day. Now, every Maserati GranSport with metallic paint that you look at, there's going to be a little bit of a difference between the front and rear bumpers and the car itself. The metallic doesn't take to the plastic the same way, and they were painted separately at the factory. And so that's something you need to be aware of. In general, the Maserati GranSports have fantastic paintwork, particularly compared with when I was looking for Ferrari 348s and 355s. A lot of them have really terrible paintwork, and this car is a standout. It is a beautifully painted car. Now, this car had covered about 20,000 miles, so I brought it to my friends at Performance Auto Spa to get some paint correction. They sealed the windshield for me, they did a clay bar treatment, and they really brought the paint up to a level where it's back to showroom quality. And you know, that's really what this car deserves. From its yellow Brembo brakes, to its faceted grille, to its BBS polished wheels. The car deserves to be clean. It deserves to be a stand-up, beautiful showroom piece at all times. Now, my car did have some swirl marks, some pretty deep swirl marks, and that was one of the things I wanted to get addressed while I was here at Performance Auto Spa. Jesse was really diligent in addressing those swirl marks, and we got them all out, so that was a real win. It's just kind of a disservice for a car like this to roll around with swirl marks. Am I right? Now, the color of this particular car is really one of the things that sold me on it. It's called Grigio Alfieri. Alfieri was one of the original, was the founder of Maserati, essentially. And this paint hue really does his name justice. Now, while Jade here was applying the sealer to the car, we got this shot. And that hood bulge that terminates at the point where the trident is one of the most sexy parts of this car. And it calls to mind the Alfa Romeo 8C. And the 8C is actually based on this car.
So I'm actually really shocked right now because there was a super deep scratch on the fender of this car and my man here was able to get it out. I'm stunned.
So you've got this gorgeous Italian car. It's yours for like 20%, 25% of what the original sticker was. Cars like the Alfa 8C and the Disco Volante are actually based on this car. They use these cars' mechanicals to build those cars. This car is legendary. I really think this is where evolution kind of paid off for Maserati. They took something that was pretty good in the 4200 Coupe and made it great with the GranSport. So let's talk about driving dynamics. This car, again, evolution was really its best friend. Minor tweaks to the engine gave it a little more horsepower, yes, but it was the tweaks to the skyhook suspension and the tweaks to the differential that allow you to ride the slide all day long at whatever slip angle you want in this car. Again, worth it just for that. 48-52 weight distribution and the Italian yowl make this car an absolute joy to drive each and every time you're in it. It has that Italian feel, but it also has an exotic feel. The steering is extremely responsive, extremely pointy, in a way that the most expensive cars are. The flappy paddle gearbox on this car, it's the revised F1 version, and it's absolutely great. Suits the car perfectly, and anyone that would criticize that hasn't driven one. So grab one and take a night on the town, or go out and find your favorite canyon and carve it up, because this car's driving dynamics are absolutely fantastic, absolutely exotic, and probably the most car you can get for the money. So what are you waiting for? It's GranSport time.